Good morning, good moed to everyone. Hope you had a wonderful Seder. We're going to learn a mimer, Parshas, between Pesach and Parshas Shmini. It's called the Achon Pesach mimer. It was said in 1969. If you download the Dvar Malchus app, you can see the mimer. You can follow along. So it's an Achon Pesach mimer. It was said on Achon Pesach. It was in 1969, and it primarily discusses the prophecy of Yeshaya in chapter 11, verse 15, verse 16. A prophecy of Yeshaya about the time of Mashiach. So we'll go straight to the text. Vehechrim havye es lashon yad Mitzrayim ve'ein ifyodei alano bayom ruchoi ve'ikol l'shiva necholim ve'idich ba'na'olim va'oiso mesilo l'shar amoi ka'asher oiso l'Yisrael be'yom aloisom et Mitzrayim. Now what does it mean? Vehechrim havye, first of all, it's a future tense. In the future. In the future, in the time of redemption, Hashem is going to do what? He's going to dry out L'shoin Yam Mitzrayim, peace, part of the ocean of Mitzrayim. So those who are coming from Mitzrayim to Israel, they could cross in Yaboshu, in dry land. So Vehechrim would mean to dry out. And Hashem is going to raise his hand al Hanor, which is the Euphrates river. Now Pas. Hashem is going to raise his hand, so to speak, Ba'ayom, with strong might. Ruchoi v'yikol l'shiva nechon, create a strong wind, and by doing so, he would smite the river, or smote the river to seven, create 7 rivers.
How do you know that that's the Pras, not the Nile River?
Because it said Prat. Prat is the...
Bayam.
No, Bayom means with... I don't know, he writes now Pas.
Oh, it's not in the text, Pras, but all right.
It is, but on the right side, if you look at the right side text, it writes now Pas in a small lettering.
Okay. So,
Bayom with strong, with takif, with fervor, ruchi, with strong wind, veikol l'shiva necholim, and it's going to turn it into 7 streams, where those who are coming from exile will go through it. And then it says, what is the Golus? Golus Hashur, Golus Mitzrayim, Patus, Kush, Elam, Shino, and Iyayom. That's what it's written. That's the places where they will come from, different places. Veidrich ba'na'olim. And Hashem would do it in such a way that they will be able to go with their feet, with their shoes. They will cross the river. So Hashem is going to dry out the water in these pathways so they can go with their shoes. It will be a pathway for walking. Same way that they were able to go out of Mitzrayim, going through the river, going in the ocean, which was turned into a dry land, split the sea for them. Similarly, this is going to happen in the time of Mashiach. So, now the questions are coming along. We need to understand. It says in the future redemption, the way he took us out of Mitzrayim, like the days that we went out of Mitzrayim, Areinu Niflois, He will show us wonders. This is also a reference to the redemption, the time of Mashiach. Hashem will show the Jewish people wonders the same way He showed us wonder when we left Mitzrayim. So the pasuk says, "V'hoiso mesilo," there would be a pathway. We create also a pathway the same way He created a pathway when they left Mitzrayim. Since in Yetzias Mitzrayim there was only splitting of the sea, Vehechrim havye. So we need to understand why we're having an extra thing that is happening in the future redemption. It says in the Yetzias Mitzrayim, what happened? The splitting of the sea. In the prophecy of Yeshaya about the future time, it says not just that we'll be able to go, there will be a splitting of the sea, Vehechrim havye, L'shon Yam Mitzrayim. Hashem is going to dry out a piece of the ocean, a part of the ocean that we're able to cross. Ela gam veheini, if you don't know, they're going to have also, Hashem is going to raise His hand over the river. This is an added miracle that did not exist in Yetzias Mitzrayim. Who raised His hand over the Dead Sea? Not the Dead Sea. Who raised His hand over the
Red Sea?
The Red Sea.
Hashem.
No, in the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Moshe Rabbeinu. Over here it says, "Vehein if Yodola," know that Hashem would raise His hand over the river. So that's question number one. Why we are having an added miracle in the future redemption? If it says previously that the same way you left Mitzrayim, it was done in one way, it's going to happen similarly when we will be redeemed.
When the Jews crossed to the Yarden, then Yeshua.
Also, yeah.
Yeshua did it. Okay.
So we also have to understand what is this expression Vehechrim. Over here we translated Vehechrim that has two things. Number one, that it's written in future tense, and number two, it means the actual meaning of the word means that it will dry out. A certain piece of the sea will dry, so that the Jews can go through the sea. But what does this Vehechrim means? Today, in I would say more modern language, Vehechrim would mean to excommunicate, like cherem, and cutting off, destroying, nullifying the existence of the sea. Shepirusha sheyabesh legamri. So it says the meaning of, according to Targum Yonason, Vehechrim would mean to completely dry out the place, dry out the ocean. Similarly, this is not like Yas Yamsuf. Why? What is the tzavak Yas Yamsuf? Vayeit Moshe's yodi. Moshe raised his hand by Boko Amayim, and the water split. The Red Sea split. V'achar and then the ocean came back to the way it was before. Once they crossed the sea, everything came back to the way it was before. So it's not dealing with completely drying out the place. Also similarly, similar to Kias Yamsuf, is a Kwasano, which is smiting the river and turning it into 7 pathway. This is also not completely drying out the Euphrates, just creating pathways within the Euphrates. So when we say the expression Vehechrim, it means that it's completely going to dry it out. So the question that is being asked, what is the meaning of drying out the sea in the time to come. Why is it also different than the splitting of the sea? The original splitting of the sea. If we need to add to the question when we're trying to compare between Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea in Mitzrayim, to the splitting of the Euphrates in the time to come, and the prophecy of Yeshaya. She'inyan hakos hanor l'shiva necholim. Masim l'inyan Kriyas Yamsuf. Hakos hanor, smiting the river and turning it into 7 pathway, is fitting, is similar to Kriyas Yamsuf, to the splitting of the Red Sea. Gam Perush Pnimi, not just that both of them would mean that the ocean, the water will not completely dry out, but also Gam Perush Pnimi, the Perush Veikol Shiva Necholim, the deeper meaning of the splitting of the sea. What is Veikol Shiva Necholim? So Pirish Targum Yonatan L'Sheva Nachlen. He turned it into 7 rivers, 7 streams. Rashi Pirish L'Sheva Gzorim. Rashi interpreted Shiva Necholim to 7 Gzorim, which is 7 parts. Lavo Bo Sheva Galuyos Amos L'Malam Ashu Mitzrayim. So the 7 exiles, different Jews from different places, be able to go through Ashur, Mitzrayim, Pasos, Kush, Elam, Shinar, and Iyayom. Different names of places that Jews will come back from. So Rashi tells us that 7 Necholim, 7 pathways. Lava B'Sheva Galuyo, so 7 exiles can come from Ashur all the way to Mitzrayim. The 7 nations are able to use the 7 pathways. There's a book, a grammar book. Excuse me. There's a book called book was written by the Radak, David Kimchi, called the Michlol. Over there, he also a Pirushoy. He made in his commentary, he made some kind of a compromise between the interpretation of Targum Yonason and the interpretation of Rashi. Chaber Shna Pirushim Nis Yachat, to bring the 2 interpretations together. Vainu Shapirish. What did Rashi tells us? Rashi said 7 parts. The Euphrates turned into 7 parts, and comes the Targum Yonason tells us 7 rivers. Rashi 7 parts, Targum Yonason 7 rivers. Comes the Michlel of David Kimchi, and he makes a compromise. That the valley that the waters are flowing to, will be called river. Even when the waters are not actually going through, like Nachal Eson that is written in the Torah. Regarding Nachal Eson is a reference to the place where you would take the Egla Rufa, which is the Egla Rufa is the decapitated calf that it would be taken there. It's called Nachal Eson. So it's not necessarily a place that contains water. In actuality, it has a potential to contain water, but not necessarily it has water. Ach be'emes, yesh leimar shepligi. Plugta sheben Pirush HaZohar v'Arizal b'Yen Kias Yam Suf is a machlokes between the Zohar and the Arizal. A dispute between the Zohar and the Arizal, even though the Zohar was way before the Arizal. שלפי פירוש הזוהר יש להכיר בים סוף בחינת מלכות. According to the Zohar, from the perspective of godly revelation, the time of the splitting of the sea, according to the Zohar, b'chinas malchus, the last sephira, the manifestation of sovereignty, sefer the choldagi, the end of all levels. That's where the splitting of the sea took place. So that malchus is the level that was revealed at the time of the splitting of the sea, according to the Arizal. שלפי פירוש האריזל אויסו הקריאה בים סוף בחינס מלכוס ספר דכל דרגין, the revelation and the godly revelation, the ray of godliness and godly revelation was at the time of the splitting of the sea. Be'efen she'olam es bria yitzir asiyah olu be'olam ha'atzilus. That the worlds of creation, formation, and action were elevated to the world of Atzilus, a world that the nullification is on a higher level. And the revelation that happens to the world took place because of this elevation. Meaning, since the worlds were elevated to Atzilus, to the world of emanation, creation, formation, and action were elevated to Atzilus, therefore, it created, the outcome was Kriyas Yam, so the splitting of the sea. והאריזל פירש, שעל ידי הקריאו, מבחינת מלכוס דאצילוס, so the kriya also, the splitting of the sea also took place within Malchus Datzilus, within Malchus of Atzilus, the highest level. Nisgalo Oilum Atzilus Beilum B'Yasiyasi. So now there's a revelation of Atzilus in B'Yasiyasi. If you notice that the Zohar says no, Malchus, the last Malchus was affected, and it brought about elevation to Atzilus. Comes the Arizal, says no. Atzilus came down to creation, formation, and action. So real difference is who is either B'Atzilus or elevation. Both of them ultimately agree that there was elevation, but either B'Atzilus were introduced to Atzilus, or Atzilus was introduced to B'Atzilus, to action, formation, and creation, formation, and action. יש לומר the pligi התרגום ידסון ורש"י, also Rashi and the Targum Yadson are pligi, a dispute, Kiyasano, regarding the splitting of the river, the future time, the prophecy of Yeshaya. Targum Rashi Kiyasano, the Losidove. Shion, if you don't know, we call Shon Necholim. Hashem would raise his hand in the time of redemption, and he would smite the river, turns it into 7 rivers. We are going to have 7 rivers. Dainu Shevam Shoches, 7 different drawdowns. Because the purpose, the concept of a river and a nachal and a stream of water, they're both the same concept. No represents the expression of no, it would mean Hamshacha, like the pasuk says, no yotzem Eden, river that comes out of Eden to irrigate the garden. Ashke Sagan, v'areza kepirush ariza v'kias yamshu shunyan hamshachas. So this wrote more like feeding to the interpretation of the Arizal, that what happened in Kias Yamsuf, there was a drawdown from Atzilus from the world of emanation to the worlds of creation, formation, and action. So it's a revelation from above coming down. Rashi is holding. Rashi is more like the aligning with the Zohar. His view is similar to the view of the Zohar. The elevation actually happened in the other way around. There was milamata, from below going upward. That the worlds of creation, formation, action ascended to the world of emanation, the time of Kias Yamsuf. The same way that in the time of the splitting of the sea, the ocean was split to 12 pathways. Why? Shekol Shevet v'Shevet, so that any tribe will be able to go, has his own path. Kol Shevet Yalgus also can, but no, the Losid Lava is similarly in the river. In the time of Mashiach, it will be split. The Euphrates. The splitting will happen. The 7 pathways. So the 7 nations that will come back to Eretz Yisrael, they will have their own path. Line 28. This is regarding the second part of the pasuk. It starts off Vehechrim havye. First, you will dry out the place, and then you call l'shiva necholim. And then when it comes to the Euphrates, it will be split into 7 parts, which is similar to the splitting of the sea. Omnam tzorich lovin. Ma'u inyan vehechrim havye es l'shon yam Mitzrayim. We have to still understand the expression Vehechrim that denotes that the river is going to be dry out completely, and this is not similar to what took place in Kias Yamsuf. Why is it different? Because in Kias Yamsuf there was no completely drying out the ocean. That's another question. Another thing that we have to understand. Kias Yamsuf ksiv v'ator v'smat rechon etesiot cholam v'kayer v'lo asid lovei ksiv ve'edif yodal lovei z'kaklan yan amate. It says in Kias Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, Hashem said to Moshe, now you should raise your hand with your staff and smite the etesiot cholayam. Raise your hands with the staff, and uvkayer, and then the water will split. And the prophecy in time of Mashiach, it says, if Yodal raise his hand. It doesn't mention the staff at all. Whereas the staff in future time will be no staff.
Amen.
Okay, base. Viu beakti makusha b'mayim leil shvi shel Pesach tafresh chavte lefnei 100 shana. In 1969, this Maimah was said. The Rebbe is referring to a Maimah that was said 100 years ago, from 1969. Let's say it's about 150 years ago from today. That was said by the Rebbe Marash, the 4th Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Maimah was also said in Pesach. Shema shekosu beikayom lefnei Moshe, ainu shayam nisbatu v'nivka lefnei Moshe. Says Vayikei Yom Lefnei Moshe Zekei Onav Amor, right? We said in davening, which means that the ocean was nullified before Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore it split it. And it's not only because of the greatness of Moshe that the ocean split it, the Red Sea split it, also because of the merits of all Jews. Why? It says at the time of the splitting of the sea, all Jews were in the same level of Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, as Yoshu Moshe, despite at the time of the splitting of the sea, it says, as Yoshu Moshe, then Moshe will sing, but Uvenei saw together with the Jewish people. Uvenei saw Yoshir, Loshon Yochid, and it says Yoshir in singular form. If Moshe is singing with all of them, you should say Yoshiru, plural. But it says Yoshir, that they're all together, they're all as one. Yoshir. So it shows they're all on the same level. As Yoshir Mishmani saw Yoshir Loshon Yochid. Mashma comes to teach us Shegod lo malas Yisrael al malas hayom. The greatness of the Jewish people superseded the greatness of the ocean. Shelochen is bata v'nikol lefneim. That's why the ocean was splitted before them, so to speak, giving them a priority. Chen mashma shekosu midrash al pasuk. The pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, "Kemigdal David Savorich." And the midrash explains what is the meaning of the pasuk. Kemigdal. Migdal is the expression of greatness, gedula. Mashe Gidel Eschem David B'Sifrei. The praises were given by King David in his book, in the book of Psalms, and he said, "Praise to Hashem." Omar Bnei Yisrael b'Seftim Shemach Gdul. He said praises about the Jewish people. That Hashem split the sea for them. Speaks words of words of greatness in regards to the Jewish people, that they merited that Hashem splitted the sea for them. Chadisa Midrash says, this is a Midrash Tanchuma and Yalkut Shimoni, they both say Shebizchus Hamila Nikro Hayam, because the Jewish people were circumcised, that was the schus that enabled the sea to split for them. This is the meaning, that he's splitting the sea into parts. Because in Aramaic, the word gozu is someone that is cut. A cut is ligzor is to cut. So in Aramaic, to say someone that is to express a circumcision, the word circumcision would mean goizer. So the goizer yamsu ligzorim kimulim hayu kol ha'metzim mitzrayim, because they were all circumcised. That's why the ocean split it for them. V'glal zeh nivka yom lifneim. That's why the ocean split it. Shemizem mashma shebnei Yisrael madrega na'al seisum hayam. That shows that the Jewish people were on a higher level than the sea. Sheloch nivka yom lifneim. That's why the ocean split it apart for them. And also there's a midrash that speaks about the greatness of those who came down to the sea. That the Jewish people came down and created, and ultimately the sea was split for them. That the even a simple maidservant was able to see godly revelation, that even the greatest of prophets were not able to see at later times what a simple maidservant was able to see at the splitting of the sea. she was exposed to such godly revelation that no prophets at later times were able to have a similar revelation. They could not even come close to that revelation. But from this, it shows that the ocean had some kind of superiority over the Jewish people, because the ocean is, so to speak, is providing these revelations. Because of the splitting of the sea, that it was split with a miracle, it created also godly revelation along with it. Nisalu b'nei Yisrael, they were elevated. So similarly, there is some kind of contradiction. In one place, it sounds like the Jewish people were on a higher level than the sea, and that's why the ocean split it for them. But in another place, it implies that the ocean was greater than the Jewish people, and that's why he brought about elevation within the Jewish people. He elevated them. Ulavoil there, page Ches. Ulavoil there, to answer this seeming contradiction, who was greater, the ocean or the Jewish people? Yesh la'akdim tchila abir b'chlolus inyan kriyas yam. So we have to speak a little bit about, we have to preface the meaning of kriyas yam suf. What does it mean? Seemingly, what purpose did they have in kriyas yam suf? What purpose did they? What did it serve kriyas yam suf? If this was because kriyas yam suf was completed the Exodus, going out of Mitzrayim, even though after they left Mitzrayim, Ksiv, it says in the Torah, that Paro took his chariot and he took the best of his soldiers and they chased the Jewish people. He took 600 young men, and that created fear within the Jewish people. The fact that Paro and his army are chasing them. So we see that even after they left Mitzrayim, they were not completely free from Paro, because he's chasing them. Only when the Jewish people saw the dead bodies at the sea, that brought the completion of the Exodus, of going out of Mitzrayim. But if Hashem wanted to create, to, so to speak, to complete Yetzias Mitzrayim, and to create a situation where there's no more fear, we are not fearing them anymore, it could have saved the Jewish people in a different way. Or it could just, the Egyptians themselves said that if the plague of the firstborn continues, we'll all die.
So we could have killed them all out.
Yeah.
I got another question.
So, bottom line is, Hashem could have saved the Jewish people. They were in a situation where they are facing the ocean and Egyptians are chasing them. Hashem could have do something else to stop the Egyptians. It didn't have to be the splitting of the sea.
They had the Shekhinah between the Bnei Israel and the Mitzrayim.
Right.
So
protecting cloud, the cloud that
exactly. So why were they so afraid if they had that there? That's a question I have.
I guess that you can say that they didn't know its functionality, that it would actually save them. The Midrash tells us that the bows, the arrows that they were shooting at them, the cloud intercepted.
Exactly.
It was like the Iron Dome of those days. I don't know if it was shooting it back at them, but it was intercepting it. Some say it was even also creating a boomerang that would go right back at them. But the point is that Hashem could have completed the Exodus
Right.
in a different way.
True.
Why did He specifically choose to do the splitting of the sea? It says, why do we needed the splitting of the sea? It's one of the biggest miracles that ever took place. It says in the Gemara, Aloshen koshe kikias yamsu. There's expression in the Gemara and Saita about the difficulty of getting married. The Gemara is comparing it to the difficulty of splitting of the sea. So obviously this wasn't something simple. And if it was a difficult thing, if it wasn't so easy, why did Hashem choose to do it that way? In Tzias Mitzrayim it says, when you take them, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, initially when he took them out, He said, when you take them out, what's the point of taking them out? Ultimately, so you can come to the giving of the Torah. You'll serve God on this mountain, which is referring to Mount Sinai. So the whole purpose of going on in Mitzrayim is giving of the Torah, Matan Torah. Anything that happened in between Tzias Mitzrayim to Matan Torah, which is 49 days, is the end of going out of Mitzrayim, and now preparation for the giving of the Torah. Similarly, when it comes to the splitting of the sea, this like the end, the final, the last nail in the coffin. So it's conclusion of going out of Mitzrayim. This is the end of it, the grand finale, and also the new beginning, starting now to count for Matan Torah. So in different places in Chassidus explains Kriyas Yamsuf u'Shvi Pesach u'Matan Torah, about these three things: Kriyas Yamsuf, the swing of the sea, 7th day of Pesach, and Matan Torah. Shachidush Matan Torah. What is the novelty of Matan Torah? Before Matan Torah, there was a decree that the upper ones, which referring to sanctity and spirituality that are in the higher worlds, the supernal worlds, will not come down, and the physical worlds, the lower ones, should not ascend on high. So there will be a separation between the upper and the lower. So created beings that are in this world will not be elevated to receive godly revelation and sanctity from our higher worlds. Whatever, you're limited to this world. And similarly, the higher worlds are limited to their worlds that cannot come down. That was a decree before Matan Torah that lasted up to Matan Torah. When it comes to Matan Torah, Hashem is annulled that decree, and it says, "Vayered Avai Sinai." Hashem came down at Mount Sinai. But Moshe Omar Ale Elavai, and to Moshe he said, "Ascend to me, go up to God," so that the nullification of the decree, the upper ones are going down and the lower ones are coming up. So it says we can understand that the upper ones are coming down because Hashem can do anything. Kol yochel. As it says, who can tell him what to do? Who is stopping him? He can do whatever he wants. Regarding Moshe, he says to him, you ascend to me, now it's your time to climb the mountain. This is great novelty. In the time of Matan Torah, in the time of the giving of the Torah, not Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Moshe Rabbeinu was not the only one that was elevated in Matan Torah. Kol Yisrael, the entire Jewish people, were elevated in Matan Torah. The entire physical world was elevated at the time of Matan Torah, at the time of the giving of the Torah. Ainu, meaning the entire physical reality got closer to godliness. What happens in Matan Torah, there was elevation of physical things. Biru, refining, purifying physical things, separating them from the bed that they possessed, and elevating them back to their source. So now the procedure started. The physical things are now capable of getting out of their physicality, their materialistic nature, and now becoming feeding vessels that godly sanctity can shine and penetrate them. For something like this, you need hadracha, which means a proper preparation. Why? Because we're dealing with a great novelty. This is above and beyond the ability of created beings on their own. So splitting of the sea was exactly for this. That godly revelation in the world, through the splitting of the sea, prepared and, so to speak, educated the world to come closer to godliness. She'az oiso ha'aliyah, at the time of the splitting of the sea, there was an elevation of a physical reality to godliness. Beisarusu de le'elo, and this happened through an awakening from above, an arousal from above. Ulefi sho, and it was only for the moment. The Kriyas Yamsuf, for as long as the duration of the splitting of the sea took place. So this is really an instruction. How is it possible to have an elevation? An elevation from below, and not just one time, rather it's something that is continuous, something that is constant. So although the splitting of the sea happened for a moment, but really it prepared us, there's now an intervention from above, but we in order to enable us to come closer. To another ois, uviu rainim.
We've got a lot to do yet.
Okay. Well, we'll stop here. This will be part 1. We'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. We'll continue after we'll daven in about 8 o'clock or 8:15. We'll do Gemara. We'll learn Gemara also. Tractate Shabbos.